Hi, my name is Eva, and my body temperature has been 41 degrees Celsius for the last few years. This is much higher than normal, and I don't even know what could be worse. So, in my story, I will tell you how I managed to survive and what it's like. Of course, I was not born with this ailment, and until the age of 9, I was completely happy and a healthy child who was not bothered by anything at all. Yes, I can say with confidence that I had a cool and carefree childhood. My parents adored and pampered me, but unfortunately, everything ended very unexpectedly for everyone. When I was 9, the whole family, including my grandparents, went on a small sea cruise. Nothing special. We just spent 5 days at sea, visited 12 islands, ate a lot of fish and other marine life. Of course, swam in warm water an infinite number of times. It seemed like everything was fine, a pleasant rest and relaxation. Priceless time with the family. We returned home with a new strength and as if charged with energy. My parents even began to plan a new cruise in 5 months. But it was not destined to come true. The thing is, the first night after we got home, I started to feel bad. I was freezing and shaking and I felt sick. I tried to ignore it and sleep, but the condition was getting worse and worse, which made my bones and headache worse. In the morning, my mother heard my plaintive moans and came to my room. When she turned on the light, she was horrified because I was all burning and terribly red like a lobster. My mother immediately realized that I was ill and hurried to take my temperature. It was 41 on the thermometer. And Mother started to panic. She immediately called an ambulance and I was taken to the hospital. Then I hoped that I was about to get helped and I would recover a little. My parents also hoped for this, but alas, I did not get better either after the injections or after the droppers, and even antibiotics had no effect. I laid there like a vegetable and prayed for someone or something to help me because 2 days had already passed and the temperature had not lost a degree for even 1 minute. I felt my strength and sanity were leaving me and I had no strength left, even for fear. Meanwhile, my parents' panic was growing and they started ringing all the bells connecting to my problem. The best clinics in the city, state, and even the country. The most famous doctors knew about me, but no one knew what to do. After 15 days of this nightmare, they began to do an ultrasound and MRI of everything possible, but this didn't change the situation in any way. The cause of the temperature remained unknown, and I was already barely alive. Then they began to carry out completely unpleasant and painful procedures like taking spinal fluid and removing my tonsils. Then they began to carry out completely unpleasant and painful procedures like taking spinal fluid and removing my tonsils, but they failed to either find the cause of the disease or to achieve improvement. I became very thin and dehydrated because all the forces of my body were spent on fighting an unknown disease, and I didn't want to eat or drink at all. There was an aversion to everything, even to myself. I wanted to get out of my unwell body and never appear in it again. If you have ever experienced a temperature of 41 for a long time, then you will understand what I mean. After 47 days of torment, when I looked like a barely living mummy, the doctors managed to find a set of antibiotics which gave a result. And after 70 days, my temperature reached 36.6, and I started to revive. The colors around me became brighter and more real. The food again began to stimulate my appetite and interest, and I even began to walk a little along the corridors of the clinic and communicate with other children. My parents and I were sure that everything was over and the unknown illness had left me. So I happily prepared for discharge and made plans for the near future. But we were wrong again because the joy lasted only 10 days, after which the temperature returned to 41 degrees, and all the accompanying horrors too. Of course, now that there could be no question of discharge and I understood that the hospital ward would remain my home for a long time. From this, I had a nervous crisis. I screamed and beat my pillow with all my strength, cursing my illness. And when the strength left my body, I humbly fell into hibernation. I slept for almost 2 days, but during this time, the situation had not changed. I was literally turned inside out as if someone or something was deliberately twisting every bone in my body, and I started loving again. I saw some mythical monsters, strange people, dancing bears with guitars and self-building stools. I hate hallucinations caused by high fever, My condition is worse than ever. And then there were these visions that you need to fight not only with the disease, but also with them. I hate them. And then I went home. And at some point, the doctors really gave up and they said that they could do absolutely nothing. That is, they just sent me home half dead and with a temperature of 41 degrees Celsius. Well, what could they do if they studied me from head to toe and didn't find the cause of my illness? In general, 6 years have passed since then, and during that time, nothing has changed much. Every 6 months, they poison me with the most powerful combination of antibiotics to bring my temperature down for a few days. And the rest of the time, I'm a real vegetable, a grilled vegetable to be precise. And during all this time, I never managed to get used to the hellish temperature and live with it like an ordinary person, although I still have to do some things. For example, listening to school lectures and even trying to pass exams or eat food. Nothing funny, by the way. The fact is that with such a temperature, it's impossible to even take a sip of water, but I have to drink at least 2 liters of waters a day and eat like a normal person to avoid complications and depletion of the body. You have no idea how hard it is and what it's like for me to face this torment every day. But the disadvantages of my condition do not end there, because in addition to physical ailments, I had to face serious restrictions. For example, when I was invited to take part in a television program, I just couldn't get there. Do you know why? When I tried to go to the airport, the damn temperature sensor went off and I was immediately blocked and asked to leave the airport building. But this was my only way to get to the program and ensure that the whole world knew about me and perhaps some doctor who could help me. Anyway, at the very least, participation in the program would have brought me a good fee. But why remember this now in general? The ability to fly is not the worst thing. After all, because of all these same heat-oriented devices, I cannot visit most shops, cinemas, schools, government offices, and even some hospitals. Can you imagine the full scale of this disaster? I became an outcast and conditionally dangerous element of society. Although hundreds of analyses have confirmed that I am not dangerous at all and not infectious at all. But what does it matter? No one cares. A few days ago, a medical student contacted me and said that he had heard about my case in class and was very impressed with my story. And then he said that he had an assumption that it was an unknown disease from which I had been suffering for the last 6 years. Could have been transmitted to me from one of the exotic fish during the cruise? And if this is the case, then in order to help me, we need to get the very fish studied and then reveal its poison and find an antidote. After that, maybe I can go back to normal temperature and live like everyone else. And you know what? I am ready to catch that fish with my bare hands and hand it over to the medics. But damn it, my parents say that during the cruise we tried more than 30 species of fish, so no one will remember which ones. But my dad promised to take a vacation this year and go to the sea to fish. Now I have a small hope that everything will change. How do you handle the temperature? Write your answers in the comments, click on the thumbs up button, and subscribe to our channel.